Today I realize that when I start explaining concepts that come through me, that there's actually a click that occurs in my mind and my brain and whatever that is now identifiable. And when I kind of accept or approve of it, and again, this has been happening forever, but I'm just realizing it now, that all of a sudden at that point, ideas start flowing through me. And I guess this is what channeling is about. For me, it's always been just me channeling or explaining what I understand. But today I realized there was no understanding. It was just a sharing that was coming through me that was clearly an idea that lives within all. And I have an opportunity to share it. And as I'm sharing it, I'm learning. And for many years, I've been channeling the idea of how we create or manifest dis-ease in our life, and how that when we awaken, we start realizing that everything in our perceptual reality is a messenger. Everything is showing us what we harbor within. And I guess that's a good way of looking at it, because in reality, most people are not aware of the fact that they're doing this. They're saying, well, my conscious mind, or I'm not thinking that, or that's not me. But because it's a part of the subconscious structure of our being, it is hidden from us. So it's like we're getting an opportunity 24/7 to see what we can't see otherwise, and that's in our perceptual world. So everything in our environment is mirroring that which we are harboring within. And the more we awaken, the more we realize that's what's going on. So I used to share early on in my classes that, you're living in a neighborhood and down the block there's a siren that goes off every night. And you're burdened by it. And you're like, oh my God, we got to get out of here because nothing is changing. Every night we have the same insanity happening, and it's just really scary. It's alarming. Like, why is this happening? And I would say when it's that far away from you, it's manageable. That's when we have an opportunity to look within and say, why would I be in an environment where that siren is happening? And at that point, then we can make a decision to look within and say, wait a second, it's a siren. So perhaps that's a warning of some kind, that something inside of me is telling me to be aware. All right. And so that happens. But most people wouldn't recognize it as that. They would not own it, and they would just walk away from it. So they move to another neighborhood, and now the next door neighbor is every night screaming. There's arguments every night. And they're like, whoa, here we go again. It's not sirens, but it's definite conflict. What is going on? And then, once again, you have an opportunity as the observer to say, what in me is in conflict right now? All right, so the conflict, knocking on the neighbor's door and calling the police and whatever is not helping the situation. So you decide once again, I'm going to move out of the neighborhood. And you go to a new neighborhood, and now, all of a sudden, you notice that there's some kind of a racket going on in your attic. And you're like, oh my God, what the heck? Here we go again. What is this? What is this insanity that I'm bringing into my reality? Because by now, hopefully, you're aware of the fact that you're doing it. And you call an exterminator, and you find out that you have a family of squirrels living in your attic. And now it's really close to home. So this is the time when you realize that if you don't accept this message, if you don't understand that you have the power to change it, that it's in you and it's not outside of you, it's a projection of something that's living within you, unbeknownst to you. The next step is it's going to go in your family, and then it'll enter your body. Once it becomes present in your physical reality, in your physical body, in the body that you wear, now it becomes dis-ease, and now it becomes a real problem, because most people then seek for answers outside themselves. This is where they get really uncomfortable, and this is where they really take action that takes them away from their own creative force. This is where they go to a doctor. This is where they go for tests. This is where they go for medicine. When in reality, this is the only place that it can be done. I mean, science is saying right now that on your way to a doctor, you've already decided to heal or not. And when you go for that prescription, you've already begun the process of healing or not. So for me, I have a constant situation with air conditioning. As far as I can remember, I mean, the first house I owned had air conditioning issues. Now, 30, 40 years later, I'm in the same position. So I said to my peeps, I asked the peeps on Facebook, you know what? You guys basically know where I'm coming from. From your perspective, which is easier for me to understand because it's a part of me now and I don't really get it. I teach this stuff, but now I want to understand why I keep creating a scenario where there's air conditioning issues. I see it as stagnant air. I see it as non-movement. I see it as not living in my true sense of joy. Anyway, so one of the people responded with a little post basically saying that it was a meme that said that the air conditioner represents the ability or the opportunity to be comforted. It's comforting. You don't need it. It's not mandatory. So this whole concept that I've been living through and aching over and, like, oh, God, this is the stuff I teach and I'm creating it without really finding a solution. But I really believe that I was ready because that meme showed me that in me is someone who kind of gets down because she's not getting enough attention or she's not getting enough nurturance and she's not getting enough love. And though it's not happening constantly, it's certainly something in me, an insecure aspect of me that, stems from the childhood that I haven't delved into deep enough. And I spent most of my life doing this kind of work where I've done self-inquiry. But I've been feeling lately that if I could just get to the bottom of this one focused or defocused energy that I've just allowed to consume my reality by having these bouts of non-comfort with crazy air conditioning issues, that I would transcend it all and I would be in bliss in my Ananda state. It really, really hit home. So today I got a message from one of my friends that in the house he's living, another friend of mine lost her pet, lost one of her dogs through a lung issue. Here we go with the air again, breath again. And I was like, wow. And he's like, yeah, she's so sad about it. Of course, it's a young dog. It got pneumonia. So I immediately heard the click in my head, and it just started flowing. And it's not something that was new, but it was obviously something that I had to remember, that I had to recapitulate, because I know that nothing is vicarious, though it appears to be. My air conditioner, the air conditioner in my house is not an aspect of me, but it's in my environment. The conversation, the text that I'm having with this person is not me, but it is in my periphery. And so at that point, because this person knows that I think the way I think and on some level understands it, I said, there's the environment you're in has a lot of those lung issues. And not to pass the buck, because I know that you're telling me this because I too am in this scenario with this uncomfortable, not breathing, balanced, not having the air flow freely in my life is causing issues around my house and now a friend. And now what happens is that when we allow ourselves to be in a state of non-congruency, where we realize that there's a lot of dis-ease around us, it's not ours. It's definitely an aspect of us. But since we are infinite beings living in infinite realities in this perceptual now, or non-perceptual now, it doesn't matter. It's happening whether we accept it or not. When we change our perspective, we change everything. So then it goes right back to my theater days where I directed plays. And when I was in the director role, I was able to have each player on that stage perform exactly the way I wanted him to. Sometimes it was rebellion, and sometimes I would allow that aspect of this show to do their own thing, but mostly I would block every movement, all their verbiage, the sound quality, everything, so that play would become what I foresee it to be. And if that didn't work, we'd have stand-ins or we'd have whatever, but the fact of the matter is the director decides, ultimately. And it's the same thing with life. It's the same thing with me being the director of my life or the player in someone else's life or some situation's life or some idea's life. Because in reality, it's all me. But when I take the role of director, I then can rearrange everything so that I could be more clear about my objectives and make manifest that which is most peaceful and most loving. So when I go into an environment and stay in an environment that's too hot because there's no air, or there's disease in the bedroom, or the person can't breathe, or the dog is dying, or whatever, what I'm doing is I'm triggering that response and cellular memory within my being that activates that which represents that which I see. So I am the one that puts the food on the table. I'm the one that puts the person on the stage. I'm the one that decides who's going to perform the act to show me what the theme of my life is, what perspective I'm in at this present moment. So I trigger that response in me, and the more that I allow myself to be unconscious about the fact that I am doing this to myself, the more I will become caught in this web and eventually become a body issue, and then eventually I'll be lost in the woods, and I become then a player to that mindset that I refuse to look at as an aspect of me that I could control, that I could change. I hope that makes sense. I mean, it just comes through, so I don't know. But the reality is we have a zillion cells in our being, and every one of those cells represents something, some activity. Every idea triggers a response in our physical reality. And again, I've known this for 25, 30 years, but now science is validating. Epigenetics says just that everything within our being is a representative of something, and that we don't own genetics anymore. We don't inherit genetics anymore, that we own them, and we have an opportunity to transform anything. So in the microcosm and the macrocosm. So if I change, so I get the air conditioning fixed, and I realize now that I have to become self-reliant. And that's what I got from this whole perspective. That I never need to see myself as needy or a victim to anything. Because if I do, I will be subservient to it. If I see that aspect of me outside of me as a predator or as a problem, and I see it as separate from me, then it will become that which I see it as being. When I see that it's just an image, it's just a mirror image of what I feel within, which I harbor within, which is happening unbeknownst to me, but it's really not, because once you become conscious, you can't deny it's coming from you. I mean, that's just a basic premise of reality. That once I understand that everything in my perceptual reality is flowing through me and to me, and everything, as little a particle as it might be, or as huge as a reality it might be, it's all coming from my perceptual reality exposed. That's it. So I really felt guided to do this, more so than what I'm really saying here, than to explain to people that's that's been a part of my reality, that sit and listen to my preaching, or that, have been in my periphery when I start this, that it's really not about me, so to speak. It's about what this click that occurs that's teaching the physical body I am to, listen and learn what wants to come through me. And so I project it outward in the hope that I get it. And that makes sense. So be aware that nothing is by chance. Everybody basically knows that there's no accidents. Everything that happens is a projection of one's own belief system. And when two come together, it just confirms it. So the two could be me and, the guy down the block, or me and my pillow, or me and whatever. But everything is mirroring what I feel inside. So when the two come together, we have an opportunity then to see what it is that we couldn't see otherwise. And we could, name it the abuser, or we can name it the lover, or we can name it the good day or the bad day. It doesn't matter. It's all an aspect of what we feel within. So for me to transcend this issue called air conditioning issues, I need to be self-reliant, which has been my goal my whole life, to learn how to be self-actualized and not need anything or anyone, because I know that brings me in a place of subserviency to that which I fear. It's just that basic. And when I stay in my own power, knowing that, okay, I got an air conditioning issue, I need to handle it. I need to take care of it. It's not about the air conditioner. It's about what's going on within me. I'll go to the motions. I'll fix it. If I fix it and I don't change and I don't become self-reliant, it happens again. Dr. Bernie Siegel was very big on this in his days of surgery when he was in the medical profession in New York. He would make sure that before he did a surgery that he would do counseling with people, because he knew that if he did not, and again, he was a little bit before his time, but also didn't get the whole picture, but he did have a sense of knowing that if he did not counsel them before their operation and help them deal with the issue at hand, that after the big surgery they went through, it had come back again. And it may not come back in the same way. It may come back as a more deeper issue, or, something that's more radical, but it's going to come back. Every relationship that we have is a replication of the relationship we had before. And it can be with food, it can be with a person, it can be with a job, it can be with a neighborhood. It doesn't matter. It's all within. And sharing this, I hope that whoever, cares to listen to this gets a new hope for change, how to change their reality. This picture is called the Cosmic Christ, and I've had it for years. It's a really beautiful picture, and it says so much to me because I believe we are all one with the Christ. And the, let me just see, we're turning it around. This is the Cosmic Christ, and the photography is by Paul Guess. Really cool. All right, guys, have a beautiful night, and don't hesitate to write me with any questions or any comments or any whatever. Thank you. Bye.